I received question, a nice comment, and a question, also a remark, in fact, or a concern, if you wish, that maybe can be beneficial to talk about a little bit more in depth for more viewers or listeners. It was a comment made on the video. It was also a response video that I made on the Kulak Music Box question that I got. And I'm going to read this question by Yair Gomez. I'm almost certain that I mispronounced your name. Sorry for that. Because it's related to when people are introduced to the whole beat universe, the musical universe, that there are some pieces that go very well or that drags them into this way of playing. But there are other pieces, most of them very known, that, of course, suddenly become very different. And it are those pieces that sometimes people that confuse people or just prevent people from going a step further. There are some elements, however, that I would like to introduce, or maybe not introduce, to point out to you here that might help you in overcoming that. So I'm going to read this comment and then I will try to answer it. Hello, Wim. I follow your content quite a while, and I must say it's always fun to watch your videos, and also it is interesting how the pieces we all know change so much through the whole beat system. I like the term whole beat system, actually. I'm a composer, and of course the period of history you develop is of much importance for my education. So I've been wondering, I watched your videos with information that support these reconstructions. I believe in your investigation because these are facts, but there is something that still has me on the edge. It's a sense of musicality. For example, and then he lists some Mozart works. They all work nice, almost better in some cases. All Bach is also wonderful in this whole beat system. Of course, Bach didn't give metronome marks, but I guess you're talking about the video series that we have now on Czerny Bach. Also Clementi and Haydn, same thing there. We have a lot of metronome marks from the 19th century. Clementi, of course, we have some metronome marks, not so many actually, but we have metronomizations of that music. It's all in the same realm, and they sound nice. But when we reach Beethoven, I have my doubts, especially with the Hammerklavier Sonata. And basically, I feel that the gestuality in this sonata is composed in such a way that one should apply some speed in order to really feel the harmony effects that Beethoven wrote. For example, in the first measures, when you have these kinds of waterfalls effects with the contrary motion of the hands. Well, it's very understandable that when you come to those pieces, that what we are doing with that music, of course, changes, especially those pieces that are taken into the domain of virtuosity, as the Hammerklavier Sonata certainly is. Of course, that music changes a lot. It's a little bit similar to, for instance, the Fifth Symphony first movement, where you have performances of, for instance, Gardner, Zander, that reaches, if not 108, come very close. It's an eighth note alla breve notation, so there it's possible, and the result is something of which I can imagine that for people there is still something of an excitement in rhythmical sense. The music becomes like powerful in a way, rhythmically speaking. And of course, you have still some hints or echoes, I would say, of Beethoven's music underneath that. And on top of that, of course, we know that music so well. I would say, first question, when you open your mind or you open yourself in terms of mentality or mental, I would say, mentally open yourself. That's what I was searching for. Then the first question you would ask yourself is, what do you want with the listening experience? Because if you like a very fast Hammerklavier Sonata performance and you really like that, there is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can go and listen to any Hammerklavier Sonata, and most of them, except that of Alberto, is very, very fast. And some others. Wolfgang played also the Hammerklavier Sonata in whole beat on his channel years ago. You know what I mean. There's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, do you accept a change also for the pieces you really like. And if you do, there is one thing that very easily could help you with that. It's realizing that the tempo Beethoven gave for, in this case, the Hammerklavier Sonata is never met. I mean, 138 is a tempo that pianists struggle with historically. And so the question you should ask actually is, am I interested in learning, if it needs to be a process of adaptation, and learning the message of Beethoven or not? If you're not, it's fine. Absolutely. But you have to realize that in this case, the Hammerklavier Sonata, it doesn't depend on opinion, because the 138 is never met. Some people claim they do, but then they slow down, or they have an excessive use of the pedal, whatever. It's just a question you have to ask yourself and to be aware of. So when you do go to the other spectrum of the whole beat performance practice, then of course you enter into a universe that in those cases, in those pieces, especially perhaps the eighth note alla breve pieces, that is completely different, that indeed gives the impression that what you liked, what you heard, what you learned to appreciate in other performances, harmonically speaking, is not there anymore. And the only advice I can give is give it time. In the case of the Hammerklavier Sonata, first movement, I will make a video on that later when we go deeper in notation, and maybe starting from Bach inventions of the well-tempered clavier, the well-tempered keyboard, because it's all tied together. This slow note notation where a composer only uses eighth notes, certainly in Beethoven's time, but also already in Mozart's time, it was a clear reference to a performance or a composition that they didn't want to be played very fast. That's the reason why they used eighth note alla breve notation, which is traditionally in that time seen as a time signature, as a notation format for heavy pieces, serious music, not too excited, serious, like with a deep touch, on the piano with a full sound, legato. Not as articulated as a piece with 16th notes in common time, which would be the double of the tempo, but also, half of the tempo, but double the note value. So the 16th notes in common time, if you can follow me still, have the same speed as the 8th notes in an alla breve time, 8th note alla breve. But the 8 notes there, they are played differently. A composer uses that just to indicate heaviness, majesty, that kind of grandeur, if you wish. Beethoven Fifth Symphony especially, Hammerklavier Sonata as well. And so the very fast performances of today completely ignore that. Completely ignore that. They completely ignore the fact that it is an alla breve 8-note notation that is supposed to be played like with some seriousness and as I said, heavy touch. And so once you realize that, you open your mind, but also you create a new listening experience, because now you can say to yourself, okay, that the G minor symphony of Mozart is supposed to be a very, serious music, but also not give the impression of just a light dance music as it is today, patatam, 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 pam, riapapap, patatam, patatam, but like tiram tam, tiram pam, pam. Okay, it will be a shock, eh? I can imagine that so well. But open yourself for that. Listen to it every day for a few weeks and see what happens. And I can promise you, there will be a complete new listening experience. And once you're there, you cannot go back anymore. So, and especially in harmonic sense, the harmonic differentiation you are about to hear then, it's unbelievable. In the G minor symphony, you start to hear chromatic shapes, chromatic lines in harmony that completely are overlooked when you play it much faster. It just goes all in one beat per measure. Whereas Mozart composes everything like in in this structure where you should feel the harmonic progression much more. You should need much more time. You play a piece like a Mozart symphony, or a Beethoven symphony, or this Hammerklavier sonata so much faster. You run behind the message. And at first it seems as if you're missing something. But that feeling, I can promise you, is vaporizing like in a week, I would say. But be aware, be careful. Once you go there is actually no return. So that's the best advice I can give. From a musicologist perspective, you just have to know what you want. You like it, you know it might not be historic, it might not be just what Beethoven had in mind, but if you like it, all fine. Go ahead, listen to the Hammerklavier sonata in your preferred version. But if you really want to go further, you have to realize that what you might hear in our performances is potentially very close to what the composer had in mind. And when you start from that idea, you give it a chance. You start listening in a different way. And that's what it's all about. Give it a chance. So let us know in the comment section how that process goes. Hope this was helpful to you and to others, but that might not have been the most clear answer. But these kind of questions, they open a field of conversation that is so wide that I can only touch upon some elements here. I hope I succeeded in that. Let me know. Okay, guys, thanks for watching here. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Hit the bell. Go visit our Patreon page if you haven't done that. Supporting, for instance, also writing a very thick, I keep repeating that, but it's what it is. Book on tempo, reconstruction, and the metronome practice, and what have you, that we plan to let see daylight in 2022. And if you do that, receive that a lot. And if you hit the bell, being a subscriber, I don't know how to end this video. That's obviously clear. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. See you soon again. Bye.